After Downing Street is a nonpartisan coalition of over 200 veterans groups, peace groups, and political activist groups that has worked since May 2005 to pressure both Congress and the media to investigate whether President Bush has committed impeachable offenses in connection with the Iraq War. The coalition takes its name from the emergence in May and June of 2005 of several documents that quickly came to be known as the Downing Street Memos.
AfterDowningstreet.org is a national coalition of veterans groups, peace groups, public interest organizations, and ordinary citizens across this country calling for a formal congressional investigation into whether the President of the United States has committed impeachable offenses in connection with the Iraq War. We launched this campaign on May 26th of this year in response to the revelations which have emerged from the release of the Downing Street Minutes. The recent release of the Downing Street Minutes provides new and compelling evidence that the President of the United States has been actively engaged in a conspiracy to deceive and mislead the United States Congress and the American people about the basis for going to war against Iraq. If true, such conduct constitutes a high crime under Article 2, Section 4 of the United States Constitution, which states, "The President, Vice President, and all civil officers of the United States shall be removed from office on impeachment for and conviction of treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors."
An online movement of bloggers and political activist groups is trying to keep the Downing Street memos in the public eye and stoking support for congressional investigation. The memos, sent among top British foreign intelligence officials, state that President George W. Bush was predisposed to going to war with Iraq, and intelligence and facts were being fixed around the policy. The After Downing Street movement wants Congress to examine whether Bush's path to war is grounds for impeachment.
I want to change it up a little bit and be fair and balanced and say a few words in defense of our presidents.
One word?
George Bush had absolutely no idea that he and his staff were promoting lies about Iraqi weapons and ties to 9/11 and punishing anyone in the administration who spoke against those lies. George Bush had no way of imagining that so many experts who predicted that Iraqis would resist the foreign occupation would turn out to be right. George Bush, we know from recent reporting, had absolutely no ability to conceive of the damage that would result from Hurricane Katrina. And so I've been thinking that someone ought to have told Bill Clinton, you don't go out there and say, I did not have sex with that woman. You say, I had no way of imagining what could happen if she called her like this. Those guilty of launching this war must be held accountable. For what is to prevent the next one. And that begins with a process that may actually need to be achieved before we can end the war. How does a non-existent Congress end a war being waged by a unitary executive? One word, we can impeach.
Yes. After Downing Street has worked closely with the peace movement in the United States and abroad, organizing national days on which events have been held in hundreds of cities, lobbying in Congress for investigations, censure, and impeachment, introducing and passing pro-impeachment resolutions at the local and state levels, and organizing the peace movement to address the issue of accountability for the war. In the process, we have seen the percentage of Americans who believe the war was based on lies climb, and the percentage of Americans who want the troops brought home rise right behind it. The media did a slightly better job of monitoring political wrongdoing in 2005 than it did during the first 4 years of the Bush-Cheney presidency, when it actually would have mattered. But the real work of exposing the misdeeds of the administration is still being done by activist groups, and the most inspired of these in 2005 was After Downing Street.
Thank you, Charlottesville. Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank the Charlottesville Center for Peace and Justice for inviting me here, and it really wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for David Swanson, who has been nagging the crap out of me for months, but he can do that. Dave and I have been friends since May of last year, so just about a year, when Gold Star Families for Peace was one of the first organizations on board with AfterDowningStreet.org. And one thing that wonderful introduction left out was June of 2005, I testified in the basement for the Downing Street memo hearings for Congressman John Conyers. That's what I thought was going to be the tipping point. I thought when America heard that, they were going to rise up in peaceful arms to stand against this government. That's where Ann and I met. And the rest is history. We know that the people did not rise up. They didn't really care that George Bush lied and that, thousands and thousands of people were dead. Little did I know, in just less than 2 months, really, on August 6, 2005, that would be the tipping point. When we went to Crawford, Texas to confront the president, I said that day, this is the beginning of the end of the occupation of Iraq. And I believe I was right, because look at what's happened since then. And David, although he hates me to tell him, this is my hero. He's one of my heroes. He is the glue that holds the peace movement together. If it wasn't for David, I don't know where we would be right now.
After Downing Street has taken the lead in organizing efforts to expose new pieces of evidence, which are listed down the left side of the AfterDowningStreet.org website, bringing new groups into the movement for peace and accountability, in advancing the topic of impeachment in the media and Congress, and opposing a proposed attack on Iran, and exposing the lies that are being used to justify it.
We believe in action by calling up our dear friend David Swanson, who we have been working with on Downing Street memo, trying to get that out into the public view, on the need to impeach George Bush, part of Progressive Democrats of America, and is going to lead those of us who can in taking in these petitions today to say to George Bush, we will not allow you to bomb yet another country. We will not allow you to lead us into more lies, more threats, more ways to make us insecure in this world. We demand peace. Thank you.
It was some weeks back that Cindy Sheehan asked me if I could start a petition opposing an attack on Iran, and we put it at a website called don'tattackiran.org. It's wonderful that there are so many people here as we deliver this petition to the White House. It would be nice if President Bush were here. I understand he's run for the border in search of his lost 30% approval rating.
I don't think impeachment is a negative value. I think it's a positive value, because to be for our country, we need to get the people who are in power out of power right now.
After Downing Street has created a resource center that is assisting local groups and individuals around the country in lobbying Congress to pursue an investigation into grounds for impeachment, and in lobbying local and state governments to pass impeachment resolutions, as well as in promoting to local media outlets our demand for a return to the rule of law.
Now we've got some great women. Maxine Waters. Today is a new beginning. Thanks to John Conyers, we have had the most significant hearing perhaps in the history of this nation, because we focused on the big lie. To find out more about what happened with the famous memorandum from Downing Street. And now the Congress has come alive. Members of Congress have decided we're going to take on this president in a real way. chief architect of the big lie is not only a liar, but he's a thief.